soft river, distant birds, faint wind in pines. Hold ambience 5 to 6 seconds before the first line. There's a particular kind of quiet just before the mountains fully wake. The mist sits low over the river, softening every edge, and even the smallest sounds carry a little further than usual. The click of a clasp on a pack, the brush of a sleeve against a jacket, the first slow sip of something warm. The world has not started yet. The river has. This morning, we're stepping into that quiet together, and I'll guide you through it the way I'd guide a friend who came to learn. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll keep the gear minimal, the movements careful, and the choices simple. I'll show you how to read the water as a map of energy, how to match the sky with subtle lure choices, how to cast low and soft under branches, and how a handful of small habits, leader length, slack management, micro-mends, turn quiet drifts into confident takes. If you can, match your breath to the river. Slow in, slower out. Let your shoulders drop a touch more than they want to. We aren't chasing a number today. We're collecting a rhythm, one you can carry home and return to any time the day gets loud. We're on a small freestone stream, cold, clear, stitched together by gravel, cobble, and the occasional anchoring boulder. The banks lean in with pine and alder, and branches form a low ceiling across the channel. Light is soft, the air is cool, and trout are cautious. Everything about this morning asks for restraint. Safety comes first, because calm begins with confidence. Wade only where you can see the bottom. Slide your foot forward instead of stomping. Let your soul feel for changes the way you'd feel a stare in the dark. Angle upstream as you move so the current braces your shins instead of pushing your hips sideways. Felt soles or tiny studs turn slick guesswork into grip. You'll hear the difference in your footsteps and see it in how little silt you stir. A simple wading staff is a third leg. Plant it slightly upstream, feel it load, then step into the calm pocket behind it. Keep your profile low. Fish sense vibration long before they identify shapes. The lower and slower you move, the more invisible you become. I carry a small stream thermometer on a retractable tether. Under 50 degrees Fahrenheit, about 10 degrees Celsius. I expect trout to favor softer water. Cushions, inside seams, tail outs. That single number nudges everything downstream of it. How slow we work, where we stand, how much weight we add, even how long we let the lure swing before lifting it. Before any cast, pause. Watch how the water folds around stones, where a ribbon of bubbles slows beside a tongue of fast current, where a glassy slick hints at a deeper slot. The river is already pointing. We just have to read. Minimal gear clears mental space. I'm fishing a 6 feet 6 inches ultralight spinning rod with a soft, forgiving tip and a 1000 size reel. That pairing makes light lines easy to manage and keeps fatigue away during long, unhurried mornings. A heavier setup would feel like wearing boots indoors. Technically fine, quietly wrong. Line choices stay simple. Straight 4 to 6 pounds fluorocarbon disappears in clear water and sinks just enough to help small offerings find the right lane. If you love braid sensitivity, run a thin 6 to 8 pounds mainline and add a fluorocarbon leader. In spooky water, 2 arms lengths of leader isn't excessive. In slightly stained water, 1 arm's length is a clean start. The leader is part of your stealth. Terminal tackle fits in a palm, size 10 to 14 single barbless hooks, a pinch tin of micro split shot, a few 1/16 ounce jig heads, tiny inline spinners with matte finishes, and a small selection of 2-inch soft plastics, minnows, slim worms, and nymph shapes, in olive, brown, smoke, and translucent hues. Add forceps, nippers, and a small floatant cloth to wipe guides when mist gathers. That's the kit. If it doesn't fit in one chest pocket, it's probably too much. 2 knots carry the day. The improved clinch ties to hooks and lures. Thread the tag through the eye, make 5 to 7 neat wraps back toward the eye. Feed the tag through the small loop above the eye, then through the larger loop you just created. Moisten with a quick breath, snug down slowly so the wraps stack cleanly, and trim, leaving a whisper of tag so the knot can't creep under pressure. The double uni joins braid to fluorocarbon, and it's forgiving to cold fingers. Overlap the two lines, form a small loop with the fluorocarbon, wrap its tag 5 times around both lines and through the loop. Then snug it lightly. Repeat with the braid, but make 7 to 8 wraps to compensate for its slickness. Pull the standing lines in opposite directions until the two unis slide together into one tidy joint. Practice both at home, on the couch, in line at the cafe, anywhere. Your hands should know them. The river isn't the place to learn. Picture every trout as an accountant of effort. It chooses lanes where calories come in easily and leave slowly. 3 features repeat on creeks like this, and once you see them, you'll see them everywhere. The soft seam beside the main current, the conveyor belt where food delivers itself at a discount on drag. The cushion in front of a boulder, a low-pressure bubble where a fish can hold and watch the buffet arrive. The tail out of a pool, where the flow compresses and shallows, funneling meals into a predictable path. At first light, fish often slide into shallower lies because their big predators see poorly and insects lift from edges and riffles. So start near. Your bank. Your boots. The seam that kisses your shins. Only after you've made your quietest drifts there do you step toward mid, then far. Bombing the far bank first is the most common way to scatter the fish that were a rod length away. Reed surface tells like subtitles for the river. A thin line of slow-moving bubbles marks a food lane. A faint grease line, where the surface flattens just a touch, suggests different depth beneath. Tiny verses that wander without urgency might be small minnows. Follow their path with your presentation. Let your first drift be a whisper. Land softly with a touch of slack. Lift the rod tip just enough to hover the extra line above the faster surface, and allow the lure to adopt the seam's speed rather than yours. Depth tuning is surgical. If, after 12 feet of drift, you never brush the stones with a gentle tick, add 1 micro shot. If you felt 2 snags in a short stretch, remove it. Change 1 variable at a time. The water rewards patience the way a long conversation rewards listening. Misty mornings reward understatement. Begin with naturals: olive backs, brown sides, muted silver, translucent smoke. Think tones that belong. Soft plastics with slim profiles breathe at slow speeds. Small spinners with matte blades vibrate without strobing. The fish don't need a billboard. They need a believable extra in the scene. Let the sky steer brightness. Under heavy fog and overcast, matte and natural read true. The lure becomes a part of the lane rather than an interruption to it. As the sun noses through and the mist thins, introduce a note of flash, a silver blade that throws fine needles of light, or a jig with a whisper of gold foil on the belly, just enough to suggest a single scale catching dawn. Keep size honest. 2 inches is a generous ceiling on creeks like this. Downsize for softer landings and more truthful drifts. If trout follow but won't commit, change 1 variable and only 1. Extend the leader a foot. Switch from shiny to matte. Pick a softer plastic that animates at the seam's slower speed. Reduce hook wire gauge so the plastic moves freer. Pinch your barbs now. Your hookups won't suffer if you keep steady tension, and your releases become a quiet twist rather than a small ordeal. There's an ethical quietness to barbless that matches the morning. You'll feel it, and so will the river. Low ceilings and skittish fish ask us to trade power for control. 3 casts do most of the work on water like this, and learning them well is more valuable than learning 10 badly. Roll cast with light lures. Lift the line gently to the surface. Form a low D loop, accelerate smoothly, and stop softly. Aim to land with a slack smile of line so the current can claim the presentation. The cast is more like a breath than a punch. Bow and arrow cast. Pinch the lure, draw it back to load the rod like a slingshot, aim under the canopy, and release along a shallow arc. Keep your offhand clear and your rod tip low so the lure travels beneath branches instead of climbing into them. Sidearm skip. Swing parallel to the water, turning the wrist late so the lure kisses the surface once and slides under overhangs without a splash. It looks playful. It's precise. Line control is the stealth amplifier. The surface current often runs faster than the seam beneath it. If you let slack ride the top, it will drag the lure sideways and your perfect placement becomes a missed lane. Lift the rod tip to hover extra line above fast water. Make micromends, small upstream lifts that barely crease the film, to realign. If wind adds a bow, shift your feet a half step and lower the rod angle. You'll see the line straighten and feel the drift relax, the way a sail steadies when the boat finally points right. Most takes are whispers. The line tightens, the lure feels subtly heavier, the drift pauses a heartbeat. Lift. Don't jerk. Set with smooth pressure and keep the rod bent in a gentle arc. Side pressure turns sprints into curves, guiding the fish towards softer water where the two of you can breathe together. If it runs, lower the rod a touch and let the drag hum in short, polite notes. Adjust your stance. One quiet step downstream often changes the fight from tug-of-war into choreography. The fish leads. You accompany. At hand, wet your hands first. Keep the trout horizontal and mostly submerged. Barbless hooks pop free with a twist of forceps. If you want a photo, prepare before the lift. Frame ready, focus locked, exposure decided. Raise the fish for no more than a breath or two, then let it drink the river again. Release pointed into gentle flow and wait for that firm kick that says, ready. That kick is the quiet victory. You won't hear it. You'll feel it. None of these are flashy. Stacked together, they're the difference between a good morning and a memorable one. Pre-rigged leaders. 2 or 3 on small foam winders with varied hook sizes and micro-weight combos. When you snag or want to change, swap in seconds without readying with cold fingers. A whisper of scent-free lip balm or line conditioner on guides reduces squeal and early icing. Apply sparingly, just enough to smooth the first casts, not enough to slick the line. Anti-fog on polarized lenses. Mornings like this fog visors and lenses alike. Clearer eyes make quieter choices. You'll see seams you would have missed. Magnetic split-shot tin. Faster depth tweaks, fewer pieces lost to gravel, and a satisfying little click that becomes the soundtrack of small adjustments. Wax pencil marks at common distances on the rod blank. Tiny ticks you can feel with your thumb. When the drop is right, you know without looking. Thermos with tea or broth. Warmth returns dexterity, and dexterity ties better knots, manages finer slack, and places softer casts. The thermos isn't a luxury, it's a tool. Microfiber cloth in an outside pocket. Wipe lenses and foam glass before the release shot. Mist blooms exactly when the fish finally cooperates. Plan for it. Pocket micro repair kit. A dab of UV resin, a matchbox-size light, a spare tip-top sleeve, and a short section of heat shrink. 10 grams that can save a morning. Muted clothing and a dark cap brim. Cut your reflection and the glare on the water. Let the river wear the colors. You stay sceneried, a mental loop you can repeat after every run. Near, mid, far, light, add, remove, natural, hint of flash. Resetting to that small mantra keeps decisions deliberate when the morning starts to blur together. Casting into the fastest tongue of current because it looks fishy. Fix. Target the seam just inside it. Land softly with a touch of slack so the seam, not the tongue, adopts your lure. Overweighting early. Fix. Begin weightless or with a single micro shot. Add one at a time until you feel an occasional polite tick. Constant ticking means you're plowing. Remove one. Lake-style retrieve on a river. Fix. Let the current do the work. Guide with rod angle and small pulses, not steady cranks. The river is doing most of the choreography. You're finishing the lines. Standing where fish should be. Fix. Approach from downstream in shade when possible. Fish the near water first. 3 good drifts per lane, then step up 1 stride. Patience here is the highest yield habit on this list. Short, bright leader as light grows. Fix. Lengthen by a foot or drop diameter a notch. Often that single change turns follows into eats. loud mends that slap. Fix, micromend, small upstream lifts that barely crease the film. Practice until adjustments are invisible even to you. Rushing after a miss. Fix, freeze, breathe, let the rings fade. Change one variable, angle, depth, or brightness. Then make the next drift as if it were the first one of the day. The river forgives, but only if you stop arguing with it. A calm morning on a mountain stream isn't about counting fish. It's about rhythm, steps, breaths, drifts, and about noticing how much the river is willing to teach when you move slowly enough to listen. Keep your kit simple so your mind stays clear. Keep your casts quieter than the river's own music. Keep your releases gentle so the morning ends as softly as it began. If you take one thing home today, let it be the stillness that lives between ripples, the part you can carry into the rest of your day. Thanks for sharing this quiet bend with me. I'll see you just around the next one.